Hello, friends. It's Lisa Williams, Chief Inspiration Officer here at Perfect Side Gigs. Welcome back to our interview series. We are having so much fun hearing from these experts who have made that brave leap themselves from the world of corporate, and now they're building businesses of their own, creating amazing legacies for their family, and finding, boy, a tremendous amount of joy and passion in the process. So our guest today, I'm not going to cry. This man has meant a
Don't make me
tremendous.
cry.
So, Mr. Casey Jacox, he is actually a personal mentor of mine and my husband's. We had the privilege to work at an amazing firm in recruiting for many, many years together, and actually got to travel the world together, competing in the elite 10%, top 10% of this firm. The amazing thing about Casey, though, is this multi-billion-dollar staffing firm, Kforce. He was literally the number one performer for the bulk of his career until he stepped into leadership. He made the leap himself not too long ago. Was it less than a year ago, Casey?
Oh, about a year and 2 months.
Okay, less than, not too long ago, and he's just doing amazing things. He wrote a book, Winning the Relationship, Not the Deal, which I absolutely love. He's in the midst of this fabulous podcast, Quarterback Dadcast, and if you are a mom or a dad, you need to listen in on this podcast. So Casey, welcome to our show.
Wow, the bar has been set high. I'm scared to where do we go from here?
You give me so much ammunition because you're just such a brilliant human, and you've taught me so much. I want to start by just, you grew to heights of success in your career that not many have achieved. And yet you did come to a point in your life where you actually made a conscious effort to leave that. So I would love for you to share with our audience a little bit about that journey out. How was it that you knew timing was right? Did you even know what you were doing? I think there's a lot of people that can learn a great lesson from your story.
Well, it's a tough question to answer because everybody's journey is different, and for me, I have so much gratitude and thanks to the life at Kforce and so many great relationships, and gratitude's like I can't even begin to think. And for me, I always wanted to write a book. But I didn't want to write it when I was still there because I didn't think that was going to be fair to myself or fair to Kforce. And I think, the timing just felt right. And the journey of writing was difficult, but I want to thank an old customer named, not old in age, but old into my work with them, Bobby, sorry. Her name is Bobby Robinson. And I remember she was a content writing, editing, writing manager at one of my customers. And I used to just ask her and tell her I wanted to do this. And she goes, just write, stop talking about it, just write. And sometimes that's hard to do because I like to read. I like to listen to podcasts. I have a lot of idea. I'm the shiny object guy. Like, oh, what's that? But it was the best advice ever. So the summer, I literally from June and probably last year, May through September, I wrote 2 hours a day, every day. And I made it. And so some days I was like, thought I was Hemingway. And there's other days I thought I couldn't be a kindergartner. It was like, what was that? That was, and it was just such a enjoyable process of trying to take what's in my head to get on paper. And, obviously having the podcast at Kforce, it was internal, and then having a chance to do that external and, talk about learning by fire and learning how to fail. I didn't know what I was doing at first, but, I'm super proud. We got, we're 22 episodes named. We got another 7 or 8 bonus episodes already. So we're almost close to 30. We have 6,000 listeners so far. We're, I don't know where the goal, where we're going, other than I'm just trying to help inspire positivity to fathers. And as I get into coaching, I'm excited to help inspire sales people and sales leaders just to focus on core relationship, foundational things that we're taught when we were kindergarten that we forgot about. So anyway, I can keep going.
Yeah.
I'll stop there to see.
Now, I love the topic of your Dadcast. I love that too. Spin on words. Now you talk. I listened to one of your podcasts where you got pretty vulnerable about your own dad,
Mhm.
and showed up at every game, but also had some of his own demons. And one thing that struck me, Case, is how outsider looking in, no one would have dreamed you and Carrie were going through those challenges.
Mhm.
And I think the vulnerability that you share, I would imagine it's brought a lot of positivity to your life. And I would love to hear, maybe share with our listeners whatever you choose to share about your dad. But then I would love to hear about what positive impact you've made as a result of getting vulnerable.
Yeah, you bet. So I think so. My parents divorced when we were in college, and then the day we got married, or maybe right before we got married, my uncle says, "Hey, Case, you guys might want to think about getting a 2-bedroom apartment so your dad can live with you." I was like, "That's not going to happen." So my dad fought ups and downs, mental breakdowns, bipolar, depression, anxiety, got a rap sheet of health issues, and we moved him in and out of places, assisted living facilities. And, now he's in an assisted living facility now where, unfortunately tail end of his life and not super positive. And it's been super difficult, journey. I mean, I talk about this in my book and even on I think a podcast episode where my dad accused me essentially of stealing his money to build our house. And, it's not the dementia. It's not my dad. It's the dementia. And that's why in the end of my book, I talk about win the relationship with my father, not the dementia. I'm never going to beat that, but focus on long-term. And, like I'll share, speaking of vulnerability. So recently we did a Zoom call with my dad, which I thought was going to be a complete disaster because he can't hear, he can't use a phone anymore. And I was like, how are we going to do this? And so I was like, well, we'll give it a chance. And so we got online with the place and they did an amazing job. And he talked and he kind of was starting to see us. And then he looks, he goes, "Oh, I love you guys. I miss you." And I can't tell you the last time I heard my dad say that, so it definitely kind of, heart moment. And right from there, though, after that conversation with my father, I was talking to one of my biggest guests ever on my own podcast was a guy named Michael Gervais, who has the Finding Mastery podcast. I'm a huge mentor from afar for me. I just like what he's doing. And so I was talking to his assistant. And so right from the Zoom call with my dad, I talked to her and she's like, "Casey, hey, what's going on? How you doing?" I'm like, "I'm doing great." I just had this amazing Zoom call with my dad where he told me he loved me and he missed me. And I can't tell you the last time I heard that. And I have no idea why I just decided to share it with you. And I think the learning lesson for me that I share with others in that story just would also be is like, what's to lose if I don't put myself out there? Either we keep going on. But she goes, "Casey, it's interesting you share that with me because my mom passed away of dementia 2 years ago."
Mm.
She and I talked for 45 minutes and I feel like I know her my whole life, but it's about that connecting. And I was actually on a podcast earlier this morning on an interview and he asked about that, like the power of networking and talking. And I think that's just the biggest thing I've just relearned. I'm teaching my kids is like, just put yourself out there. Like the whole phrase, "fake it till you make it," is a joke. Do not follow that. Be
No.
yourself.
Yeah.
Don't. And like Mike Robbins, another speaker, author, and does some great work. He says his book, he says, "Be yourself because everyone else is already taken."
Oh, I like that. Oh,
Simple.
very good. Who said that?
It's Mike Robbins. He's a author. He's written 5 books. He does a lot of great work. I've seen him speak. He's a really talented man.
Mm-hmm. One thing that I've noticed in my own journey is this incredibly generous nature of this whole community, which I'm not saying corporate doesn't have that, but it is different. What can you share with us maybe what you've experienced in your own journey of just simply reaching out to people and, like you said, asking for help and things like that?
In terms of like when I was working at Kforce or working.
Now that you've made this leap,
Yeah.
and all these different connections and networking that you're doing.
Yeah. To me, networking is not about me. And it's just like I use in sales. Sales is not about me. It's always about the customer. It's always about the questions I ask, not what I say. Just like we always talked about the banking example. I can't go to a random bank and say, "Hey, I'd like to have $400, please."
Yeah.
But the first question he or she's going to say is, would you have an account? Oh, no, but I'd like some money. That'd be awesome. Well, that's not how it works. And so just like in relationships, I can't expect to have stuff if I've not deposited anything. So when I'm out networking right now, I've only been networking really for the last, I'd say 7 weeks, as I thought, God, why wouldn't I start this coaching thing? It'd be fun to help and give back and teach so many of the things that people have taught me. And I think just leading with a curiosity, leading with questions about them, being prepared to understand 2 or 3 things that I might find out about someone. And then just when I think I'm done asking questions, pretend I'm a 5-year-old and I say, why? And, just keep asking, because when you build those relationships where it's about them, not me or us, that's where I think the true magic in connecting with people happens. I'm actually looking at a sticker on my computer. There's someone online I met. Her name's Ginger Johnson. She lives in just outside of Portland. And the sticker she sent me is connectors change the world.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm in this contest now, or maybe contest is the wrong word, but for me it is competition. Is as I connect with people, I'm already thinking, who can I help them? How can I help them? This gentleman who I just was on his podcast named Vincent, I was like, so do you remember henna?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I was like, you got to have henna on. I'm like, it's not about me. It's about, cause again, if we are creating value and filling other people's tank, it's always going to come back to us.
Yeah.
And until the day it doesn't, I'll stop living that way of life. But that's what I feel like it's always about other people.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And I think this world of people that have decided to take a leap on themselves and hire themselves, it's a bit of a different network of people, slightly different. I'm curious just in general for you, you had a very strong security of Kforce, and you have this amazing wife, Gary, who I've gotten to know a little bit about. And I think one thing that is absolutely crucial if people are going to make a leap themselves is to honor your partner. And can you share with us about maybe what you and Gary did to prepare for this leap? What advice you might have for others to, obviously honor what you both need in this, journey that you've done?
I think you got to be honest with yourself. You got to be honest and you got to, I think and you got to be happy and real with yourself. And so I think if you can't, just like Maslow's hierarchy of needs, if you're not right in your own mind, you're not gonna be right anywhere else. And so for me, it was just constantly having conversations like, hey, these are things I want to do. And, Carrie, one of the things she always says, I'm going to bet on you. Which I think as a husband, that's a father. It's the best gift any wife can give, or any husband can give a wife, just saying that they believe in that person. And I think what you're doing is great. And so for me, one of my things I'm not good at sometimes is the operational, I'm detail oriented, but Carrie's detail oriented off the charts.
Mm-hmm.
And what I'm excited about is it gives us a chance to work together. And her part of this next journey of life we're on is, how can we build something together? How can we help inspire dads become better families? How can she support me to help me, share experiences, teach other sales minded people in any industry, whether it's real estate, mortgage, finance, insurance, even randomly, I'm talking to a company that does veterinarian clinic work.
Mm-hmm.
I never would have thought when I wrote my book, it's going to be to help the vet industry. But,
right.
But you think about it, if you win people, if I win Paul and Lisa, I'm going to have Paul and Lisa's pets for life.
Right.
Yeah. So, but as I think about it, it makes sense. And so, I just think having clear goals that aren't either one, when you're not doing something irrational or impulsive, but you're really thought through when timing's right. And for me, we'll see if it was right, if it's the right decision. But I think I know I'm just happy. I think I left the door open that if you never know what's going to happen. Maybe in 10 years I come back and Kforce hires me as their janitor. I don't know. Maybe I'll be.
There's always going to be a job for Casey at Kforce. I can almost guarantee you.
No, they were at such a. Again, they had so much for me, and it was such an amazing family, and I wish nothing but the best for them. That's why it's fun, and they've been very supportive of my book, and Kai obviously has been supportive, and so nice, the things she said online about it. And so I'm always very thankful.
Yeah, absolutely. Now you obviously have children. That's one of the big, it sounds like probably motivators of your podcast.
Mhm.
One of the things that I wonder about is I feel like there's a lot of kids that are graduating right now and they've seen the life that their parents have led in corporate and they don't necessarily see themselves there. If you're speaking to maybe the new graduates of today, um, what would you say to them about the future and their options and choices?
I would say the resilience and grit that you're getting blessed with right now, in 10 years, you'll be thankful you went through it. And I know that sounds very scary, or even think, because you don't want to see people get sick. We don't want to see people die. We don't want to see the unspeakable things we're seeing right now, which is just scary. And I want nothing but unity and justice for all. However, like I mentioned earlier, Tony Bennett, life's adversity is life's golden ticket. Like you're entering the workspace, you're entering college in a time that none of us have seen. But what's not being taken from you is your ability to be prepared, your ability to have a positive attitude, and your ability to give great effort. Like those three things are not, COVID can't touch those things. You might think they can, but they can't. And I think my advice to these people graduating is, there's going to be probably in 20 years, 30 years, 50, 100 years, someone's going to have it way worse than you did, which is even scarier to think. And I think if we live that way, it keeps you grounded in a level of, just having a level of gratitude and perspective that, yeah, it does stink. And maybe, yeah, I've had to pivot. Maybe I don't get to go to the way I wanted to play college sports or get this degree. But like the gentleman I was talking earlier, he's a super successful guy, businessman. He's got a podcast now, but he literally had to take a career shift and take a $12.50 hour a job.
Mm-hmm.
And your choices are, do I pivot and just get a job and go? Or do I complain and sit back and blame everybody else and say this stinks and I'm so impacted by it, which is, it's someone's right and someone's choice. You can do that, but it's not going to solve anything.
Yeah.
So for me, I don't know. I'm big. I never had a gratitude practice per se when I was working forever, but I have one now. Like every morning I wake up with a minute of breathing, a minute of I have statements, a minute of I am statements, and a minute of I will statements.
Oh, I love that.
And a lot of it, I do those around my own gaps, things that I wish I was better at, or things I want to aspire to be. They always don't have to be physical things. They could be emotional things.
Yeah.
For example, patience. I am a patient dad. I am a patient person. I will be patient today. Kind of talk it into me.
Will you have Paul do those for me, please?
Yeah. It won't help with his height. He won't be tall.
He won't be tall. No, he will never be tall. My husband, by the way, is 5'5". I'm 5'5.5", for those that don't know my husband. He says the only reason that he's taller than me is because I have a 5 head instead of a 4 head.
There you go.
So I'm curious, I think in recruiting, would you not agree that most people fall into recruiting? Did you fall into it?
No, I had posters of all Kforce executives as a kid on my wall, like next to Dan Marino. I just always wanted to get into it. No, of course, it's like, I never would have thought ever I'd do this, but I'm so glad I did. It aligned perfectly with my journey in life of sports, and that mindset of dealing with diversity in sports perfectly lined up with life in the business world of, because as product, our people was our product, so we didn't have control over it. And so it really taught me the attitude and effort component, which I talked about earlier. It also, my experience in sports and learning how to watch film and get coached openly about how good or bad I was in a game in front of my teammates prepared me for the good and bad in the business world, where a client might be upset, a boss might be upset, how you handled certain situations. It was like, instead of like making excuses, I would always seek to find ways to get better, even as how perceived I might have been successful as our number one salesperson, but I was always scared of it going away. And I never wanted to be that person that like, hey, whatever happened to that Jacox guy? He used to be at the top. And then what happened? Like, I don't know. And I was probably what I was most proud of is just the length of being at the top, but utilizing those things I learned along the way of just keeping you grounded with the humility and focus. And
Yeah. Well, and I think we'd never take that class. What are we really meant to do with our
right.
lives? And so I think with all of us in recruiting, most of us fell into it. And I think honestly, my observation is that that's how most people get into their careers. They might have a particular profession they're striving towards, but my question to you about this is really, what would you say to those people that they have landed wherever they've landed? They've had relative success, but they have stopped growing. Maybe they're not learning anymore. And they have this dream, but maybe they're afraid to pursue it. What would you tell them about that journey in your shoes and what they might learn from that?
I think before people decide to jump, there's amazing opportunities to grow internally. And that's one thing that I loved about my path is I remember meeting with our executive team and said, hey, this is, if I keep being number one at the top, I'm not going to grow. And it doesn't really help, I think, to build the next generation behind me. So how can we work together to find a role that helps solve your guys' problems and really helps motivate me to get me excited about taking my next step? And so they did an amazing job. We created it together with, and I think, that helped me, but I guess I tell people, I want to ask people, like, how important is it to you?
Mm-hmm.
And then, like, when you have these things you want to do, are you going to just talk about it? Are you going to write them down and then tell people? So now it becomes a level of accountability. So like, there's big things in life. Either like there's two groups of people. One group will say, man, I need to do that. I should write a book one day. I really want to write a book. And that mindset does not flow with me. Either you will or you won't. Either I will write a book or I won't write a book. And that in both are okay, but just be honest with yourself. It takes away the cloudiness of the lack of clarity about where I'm really going and why I'm going, why I want to get someplace. So, I think for others, it's got to be your journey. And no one's a mind reader. Bosses aren't mind readers. Your spouse isn't a mind reader. And the more that you open up and communicate about what's important to you and where you want to go, that's, I think, how you'll help understand when the timing might be right for you. So anyway, that's what comes to mind.
One of the things that I've always loved when I hear you speak is about you are a coach inherently, and you attribute a lot of your success to your coaches and mentors. I do think there's a lot of people out there that don't necessarily have that. What would you say to those people that maybe don't have strong figures in their lives that they can, build that muscle with?
Yeah, I think just because I had coaches, and maybe I am lucky and privileged. Coach Jacox, my my high school offensive line coach. He was a guest on my podcast. Like, he taught me so much about the power of the weight room and getting stronger. And Coach Marty Osborne, Coach Bo Baldwin. I mean, I can go on for days, but I think for if you don't, I challenge you to really think through. Like, think about some positive moment in your life. Some positive. It could be a teacher. It could be a friend. It could be a friend's dad, a friend's mom. It could be an uncle, an aunt, a grandparent. Like, think of somebody. I'd be shocked if someone can't find one positive thing in your life. I think they're not being honest with themselves. And then think about what those characteristics you liked about that person. How did they get to you? Like, what were questions they asked, the advice they give you, the experiences they put around you? And then maybe try to look for those types of other people that you don't know yet in your life. Use LinkedIn is a great tool. And again, if you put yourself out there, you're only either two things are going to happen. Either they don't respond,
Yeah,
or they respond, and now all of a sudden you're showing interest in someone else. And I don't know about you, Lisa, but I've yet to find anybody who doesn't like talking about things they're passionate about.
absolutely. Yeah.
So, and if being mentored, if learning about others is important to you, then make the first step. Hey, I saw you online, and man, your career, something about it just spoke to me. I'd be honored if you'd accept my LinkedIn request, and I'd love to just learn more about your journey.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. How are you, how are you shifting right now? For those that are, listening or watching us later, we're in the midst of the COVID-19 crisis. And I like to ask this question about the future. Say you're sitting on your porch in Cuddy Hunk. By the way, this is Casey's favorite vacation spot in my back. That's why we have chosen it. You're 20 years in the future, you're sitting on your porch, and your kids come up to you. Now they're obviously, or no, your grandchildren, let's say.
Yeah.
Come up. We just learned about COVID. I heard people went crazy. What'd you do, Grandpa? What are you going to say to them?
I provided empathy for others. I created an acronym about value kids, because value is a word that gets overused, and I wanted to put some metrics around it, which is why I just wrote about that recently and did my friend Paul Howard, he did a video with me on it. It was his idea. It was super, super fun. And we focused on having conversations that were uncomfortable, so that we continued to grow. Grandkid, granddaughter, we realized that as a middle-aged white male, I lived a privileged life, and I don't need to feel guilty for it, but I need to be aware about it, and I need to be openly to talk about it, and I need to be open to, and I had to really focus on being open to other people's perspectives and viewpoints, because silence isn't going to help anybody. And I think the more we can get people to talk about it, that's the gift I hope to give you, grandson or granddaughter, is just, be the one that's not afraid to ask the question. And I think your tone, your body language, your authenticity of the message, if you truly want to know the truth and find unity, find positivity, that's what I did. And it really helped. And that's why my book went on to sell 68 million copies. It's next to Stephen Covey's book in the library. That's a big goal.
I love it. I love that goal. It's going to.
That's here's why I want to, that would be the biggest gift ever, because my biggest goal ever. When I got done reading, I read Covey's book twice. The second time I read it, I listened to it. And in the end, my favorite part about that book is when he said, I didn't create these 7 habits. These were here long before me. I just practiced them better than others. Mm-hmm. And when he said that, it was just like this, that light when Griswold sees his Christmas tree in Christmas Vacation. Yeah. It spoke to me so much, because I was like, that's exactly what I wrote about. Like, I didn't write about the golden rule. I didn't write about expectation management, listening, ego, documentation, and patience. I didn't write about those. I just maybe did those better than most every single day. And I made those 6 things part of my habits. And by doing so, great outcomes happened. So like for me, if that's one thing that people, in 20 years talk about, that, man, this book really helped me out, that'd be a goal.
I love that.
You just role played. I was your grandpa.
I love it. It was awesome. So tell me, if you couldn't leave your kids any assets, but you could leave them experience or knowledge, pieces of advice, what would you say to them?
I would leave them a positive attitude, because the feeling you get when you make other people smile will light up a room. And I would leave them curiosity, because they would be inspired to ask questions about other people and not want to talk about themselves, which will create way more friends in life. And then probably would want to lastly leave them, 2 more things. I would leave them sarcasm, so they'd have fun.
You always make me laugh.
And then I would leave them self-awareness, so that they don't have an ego when they grow up.
Yeah, absolutely. I've been so enjoying your dadcast. Is there a dad that you're dying to get on that maybe I can help you network and find?
Yes. So once I got Michael Gervais on, that was a big one. And I literally told him I have a man crush on you. And out of the gate, and he started laughing. And now what I'm realizing is, I don't care if it's Obama or if it's Larry Bird or John, anybody. What we have in common is we're dads. Yeah. And so take away everything you want. You still want to create good human beings. You want to create good kids that become either great students, good athletes, good workers, good husbands, whatever they may be. So I'm not afraid to interview anybody right now. Yeah. So if you're asking, Will Ferrell, if you're out there, buddy, I think we'd make a great team. I think you'd enjoy some giggles with me. I did have a dream that Justin Timberlake came on my podcast.
Oh, I love it.
He actually then he took me to the theater. We saw Lion King, which makes no sense. And I was worried about Jimmy Fallon getting sensitive, like he was going to replace him as his best friend. And he drove a Jetta too, which I found odd. So
I love it.
true story.
I'm gonna connect you with some great people too that I've interviewed that have been such fun. I think you would have so much fun with them. Well, friends, we are out of time. I can't believe, Casey, I could talk to you forever. Thank you so much.
No, I'm proud of you, and keep leading from the front. And one thing I always enjoyed about talking to you, Lisa, is your genuine authenticity and happiness is beams through, and you're never afraid to talk about things you want to get better at or the struggles you're going through, which I think that's a gift that you can give many, many people. So keep doing it.
I will. And thank you for acknowledging that. I just want to acknowledge it's nothing about me. I give all the glory to God. He just has inspired me to do so much. And I'm so happy to see you. Say hi to Carrie.
Yeah, I will.
To our friends, thank you again for joining us on this amazing journey, on this corporate to entrepreneur series that we've put on. I hope you all have a blessed week ahead and stay safe out there, and continue to have blessings in this amazing life journey. Talk to you soon, friends. Bye.